Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Noblesse. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, picking up where the last episode ended, we have Rai walking into the room, and obviously it's the showdown that's, Raskia has decided upon that she's going to, this is, it's what she's waited for to make him pay. And so at the end of the day, she's planning on killing Gunjutel because it's like, right, he chose your side and I'm here to execute him as a traitor. But right, it's like, no, I won't let you kill them because like, what are you going to do to him and Sarah? And it's like, right, I'm not going to let any of them die. And so, but the others, like, right, it's like, you're going to try and step to our Lord. You have to get through us. And, in that moment, they all come like they go at him one at a time. And I love that if you pay attention, Rai stays in the same place for 75% of that fight, just like easily waving them off. It just shows you, yes, like the rest of the team can kind of like, because even Frankenstein can like, I think even now he'd still struggle against some of the clan lords. I wonder would he even be able to go toe to toe with Raskia if it came down to it. I don't know. But, because, even in this case, we still didn't even get to see him, like, go crazy. I think even at the end, he's still holding back to a certain extent, because he still, I guess, even to this point, can't fully control the Dark Spear, but circling back to Rai, eventually, like, Raskia had to step in because none of them, like, because I'm blanking in my head, like, I'm just remembering whether they tried all three at once before she stepped in. I want to say they did, but that might have been afterwards. But, yeah, she decided she was going to end this herself. And, but even then, like, she couldn't really do much against him. And, Rai's kind of saying, like, what are you doing? Like, as a lord, you should have the same power as me. And so, in that moment, she tries to attack, but it's futile. And it also showcases, like, Rai didn't even, like, go full-blown, like, because we saw, like I said, you get a glimpse of him going full-blown with his power when he stopped Frankenstein. Like I said, you get a glimpse of it when he does the blood wings thing. But he kind of didn't even go that far against this fight. But it's also like, right, he's not trying to kill her. It's just he's trying to make a point during this whole thing. Because it's like, the fact is, like, she will never fully embrace and be able to summon the powers of a lord if she, like, the way she is right now. But even then, it's like, the other clan leaders stand up. It's like, no, we'll guard her. Like, the fact is, no matter who you are, we believe in her. And once again, even this is like the first point Rai actually dodges. Like, I don't think he still would need to, but I think he's dragging the fight out for a purpose. And it gives Raskia the chance to summon the blood field. Because he was planning on ending it himself, and he summons his own blood field. And she attacks with hers and ends up actually hurting him. But it's also like, right, after everything, she gave her all, and all she was able to do was, like, cut his face. But for him, it's like, that was enough. It's like, right, that right there is kind of what makes her a lord. The fact is, because you aren't alone. Look at these people who are willing to fight by your side, stand by you, defend you. Like, that's what kind of made her a lord. Like, that moment there of like, right, the people that are willing to follow you and fight for you. And in that moment, like, he nearly passes out because everyone came to the castle after stuff like really started going down. And Franken shows up in time to grab Rai, and it's like, right, look at you pushing yourself too far again. And he just kind of smiles. And, it's like, at the end, it's like, well, what is he going to do? She's kind of accepting things as they are. Like, I don't know whether she was just kind of like, I knew it was going to come whether she was just accepting, like, oh, you're going to kill me or not. But Rai extends his hands, and he summons the other half to the Ragnarok. Once again, it's like showing that her father did the same thing that Rachka and Rael's father Ragnar did, of splitting their soul weapon into the two soul weapons. And but in that, with the Ragnarok hole, it releases a fragment of the previous lord who had hidden a part of himself in there. And we finally understand the truth to everything. It comes to light. And I think that's what makes this arc interesting. Yes, Rael's a dick, but there's actually really no true villain in this case. It's just, once again, like I brought it up in the beginning, it's a very high level amount of like misunderstanding, because it turns out the Lord actually decided to put himself to sleep because he heard from Frankenstein about the way they operate, but he brings up the fact is, look at what humans were able to do. They were weak, but they eventually grew into what they know. They changed, they adapted, and once again, that's what I brought up earlier. That was the thing about the nobles, like they were so stuck in their ways, they hadn't changed, whereas humans constantly adapt, and as the word he uses is evolve. And that's what you could say the same thing about Sarah and Regis, spending all that time in just the human world changed them for the better, and that Regis and Sarah are examples of what the previous Lord wanted. That's why him and a few other clan leaders decided to join him, because they wanted to pave the way for the next generation. It's like, right, remove us so the younger generation can take up and then lead them to a new path, because this is a place steeped in tradition, and a lot of us are too old. It's too late for us to change, but this new generation, they could be the ones to change things. Lucadonia, and the nobles haven't evolved in so long, because it was even the whole point of like, right, he said like, we have semi like permanality, in the sense that like we could kind of live on for a very, very long time, but a very long time living the way we have isn't the right way, so we have to pave the way for a new generation. And it turns out that Geshutel knew, and that's kind of a secret he's been keeping, because he offered to enter eternal sleep as well, but the previous Lord was like, no, I want you to watch over my daughter and all the other all the new clan leaders that would rise up to kind of make sure they're heading in the right direction. But things didn't go 100% the right way, because obviously Raskia, she was so caught up in mourning, she wasn't fulfilling her duties as a lord, and then there were other clan leaders pining for power. But then a nasty rumor started spreading that Rai was responsible for the lord's death, and that kicked her, sparked her to step into the shoes of being a lord, and she ended up uniting everything. So Geshutel kind of kept that lie, he disproved it, but he also kept everything going, because the thing that united them was her and her mission, and his branding, Rai being branded as a traitor. It's also interesting, and obviously it's very interesting that obviously this whole decision was sparked by Frankenstein, his decision. It's because it's in the previous order, it's yeah, this smart ass tell me if you don't like the rules, then why don't change them? And Frankenstein just kind of goes kind of looks the other way after hearing that. But once again, it's a situation that Geshutel continued this lie. He continued and let things play out the way they did, because he needed this lie to perpetuate a little, to a certain extent. That's why he was so willing to give his life up, because it's right, the previous clan leaders gave up their life, so if my life is to keep you on this same path, then I will gladly sacrifice myself. If it keeps you down this path of being a lord, I wanted to clarify some misunderstandings you have, but if you want to hold on to that, as long as it keeps you motivated and keeps you, because the proof is right here that there are these clan leaders who believe in her so much that they were, regardless of anything, even going up against the Noblesse, they were willing to still defend her and stand in her way, to make sure that she was okay, because they believed in her strength and believed in who she was as a lord. That she's their lord, so of course they'd go above and beyond for her. Once again, you can see the parallels kind of for the people that are in Rai's life as well that would do it. But at the end, Kisara shows up with Regis, and it's right, it's not just my grandfather, it's on me as well. So if you're going to execute him, his issues comes down to the clan as well, so execute me as well. But then Kisara's kind of bringing up the point of right, the fact is he's the most noble of us all. We need to be more like him. So it's he was so don't knock out a spark like this, such a youngin, a spark like him as a noble is what you kind of want. So don't execute him. He makes his statement, and then the others kind of make their stance as well of right, please don't executing, because it's like, right, the others kind of like, I think like Rosario in particular is like, yeah, you ended up bringing him here, and it's just kind of like, yeah, sorry, he's the most laid back, that dude in particular, he was the one that had the biggest reservations, but that's also like the whole point of like, right, they're so, I think it's the point of like they are so obedient to their lord's word, which is a benefit but also a detriment, because he's the only one that really kind of questions and like, maybe this isn't the right way to kind of handle things. So it's like, I think you kind of don't want this absolute rule, like she's kind of been ruling a little, and everyone's kind of begging for their lives, and so at the end she ends up sparing them because for her, and she leans on Getchito saying like, I could never kill you, like even when I was alone you were always there for me. So like he was that person for her, like once again it's like this all stemmed from her own insecurities when it came to like her father choosing Rai over her. And so at the end of it all, he talks about like, her father's message to her is, that he's like, he loves her, and he's like, I wish I had told you that before I died, but it's just like, I just didn't want to see those tears in your face, like, once again, it's just decisions to make, it was always meant to put the nobles as well as like, the clan leaders and the lord like in a better path, in the right direction. And once again, everything kind of worked out like this. Once again, despite everything, no one got severely hurt. I mean, well, there were some pretty banged up people at the end of it, obviously. Regis and M21, even though like they're healed and everything, bickering back and forth, and obviously you have Frankenstein getting ready to is that right? Everything leading us to our transportation back to Japan, it's all ready. We just, and it's like, well, what about Rai? Like, what's he going to do? And it's like, well, that's up to my master to decide what he's going to do. And so you have Saskia show up and asking him about, she's like, what kind of like, what did you personally think of my father? And it cuts back to that conversation. We get the full scale of it, where it's like, he's like, what would you think about becoming the Lord? And he was like, why are you asking? Like, what about your daughter? And for him, it's like, yeah, but she's too young. But you, if you take the position, you could be that kind of perfect example for her. And then she can take over, like, when she gets to that point. And I guess we kind of inadvertently got there, where it's like, because for Rai, I think he's satisfied in seeing, like, everything of being like, yeah, she's actually ready to take on that position, to fully embrace being a Lord now. She is back on the right path. Like, everything was kind of, she strayed a little bit, but everything still ultimately led her to where she needed to be, and this kind of steered her, like I said, more in the correct direction. But for him, he's like, right, like, you don't get like how hard being the Lord actually is. And he was saying that, if you did become the Lord, like, you'd actually have people, you'd never have to be alone, you'd have so many people around you. And he was like, no, I decline, because he's like, I will remain as the Noblesse, to aid the Lord in any way I can. And then it's just kind of like, all the Lord can do is laugh and be like, can't expect any less from Rai, because it's like, right, you never do what anyone asks you to. You always kind of always do your own thing, and even after all this time, hasn't changed. And all Rai has to say is like, your father was a loving, doting parent. And just because of it, Roxia kind of blushes a little bit and just bursts out laughing, and you just see a smile across Rai's face. And so it's like, well, what about Lucdonia? And it's like, for Rai, it's like, I think this is the right choice, because he believes like there will come a time where the people there won't need the Noblesse anymore. That that with a proper Lord in the right position, like that being Roxia, is like that everything will, like, this moving in the right direction for all of the nobles, because obviously we see things kind of get back together. Even Rael, I think that conversation he had with his brother during that fight with Frankenstein, I think it kind of put things in perspective for him. I think it's just, he was kind of like Raskia as well, in the sense of like, it was just like feeling this need to kind of prove yourself, like his own insecurities are what led to his issues. And I think, now I think he's in a better position. You see him kind of around his brother, kind of blushing a little, but I think it's like, once again, there's like fully no bad guys, and you see Geshitel being there with Roxia, being her advisor, because he plans to stay by her side till the day he dies. And Regis and Sarah are allowed to come back to the human world because it's like, right, they want you to kind of be the advancement team of like learning what you can from the human world about changing and adapting, and them kind of being the prototypes of what they can bring back to like Lucdonia as it progresses. So, and just kind of puts a smile on Rai's face, I think, just to see how everything ultimately did turn out okay. And coming back home, Yusuke and Manabu being so happy to see Regis and Sarah, and then also seeing, you know, Rai, and obviously the trio of Takeo, Tao, and M21 being, you know, smiles on their face, and Frankenstein overlooking them, smiling too. And just that final shot of obviously Rai smiling because it's like back where he belongs, and everything all across being okay. Like knowing, having an easier mind, knowing that everything's in a better place in Lucdonia, and obviously things are back to those peaceful, beautiful days in this world as well. So, once again, this could be another element of me misremembering. I thought at the end of this arc, Rai was kind of in a worse condition. Like his fight with like Raskia like ended up being like even more draining. So like after like the second arc, he was coughing. Like after like the, you know, everything with DA5, like he was coughing up blood afterwards. Like I thought that was kind of a similar thing, kind of showing that he had even less time. But now I'm even wondering, because this is, like I said, I think this is definitely the last arc I feel like I remember reading. But now when I brought up some of that stuff about like, oh, I could have sworn that M21 transformed and he never did. Like I said, not unless that's an anime thing, but I'm like, that makes me think I read further than I remember. Because I distinctly remember this arc. I feel like I don't remember the next arc. So that's what kind of confuses me. So not unless I'm pulling from stuff in the next arc. So some of that stuff, like I said, about Rai or even M21, maybe that doesn't come up until the next arc. I don't. Like I said, I vividly remember finishing this arc. I just didn't remember the next one. But maybe because I think I did start it, because I think at the time like I was too caught up, and that's why I stopped. Like much like Tower of God, I kind of did a similar thing in that regard. But I don't know. I legitimately don't know. So maybe that's different, or maybe it's exactly the same. Once again, it's just my fault for just not having like some vague enough memories about things, but also being a little clearer on some things and not as clear on other things. Is kind of just the whole point I'm trying to make. So at the time of me recording this, which it is July 30th, 2021. The reason why I'm specifying that is because at the time of recording this, it's still unclear whether or not there is going to be a second season of this anime, because I googled it really quickly. Some of the articles I was reading are like back in like December of 2020 when the anime originally ended. So, but there is plenty of story to tell. I believe looking at the chapter list, because like the final chapter total ended up being like 500 and like 540 something, and this is in the maybe late 200s is when this arc finishes up. I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I think this is roughly speaking like the halfway point, maybe a little over. So there's at least like half the story left. So I think they were able to fit like these two major arcs over in one anime. Like I think there's like at least maybe another 3 arcs left, or rather 3 seasons/volumes, or maybe 2. So I think you could probably fit that in like one more season, like if it ends up being, because I think, like I said, I think it's supposed to be, I think it's 6 volumes or 6 seasons, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, it's just been so long, but like just based on the chapter type numbers and stuff like that. Like I said, I had to look closely at to see, because Tower of God made it a little clearer, like where like the new season started, so it's easier to realize like, oh yeah, like it was pretty. Oh, plus I had a little more clearer memory of that than I do Noblesse, just because it's been years since I read Tower of God, as I said before, but it hasn't been as long as it's been like Noblesse, but. Regardless, like I said, there's still like half the story to tell. I mean, and, you know, so I would highly recommend reading, because I plan on picking up the manhwa like where this left off. That's usually how that kind of goes for me sometimes when it comes to anime. Because like I said, I definitely need to see like, did I start the fourth arc, or did I not? I legitimately don't remember. I'd love to see if they would do a second season of it, and even if they did, it'd probably take a very long time. Once again, this has been like I said, it's July now at the meet, and it's been like what, a little over 6 months. So I feel like there would have been more updates top front. Because it's just like I said, nothing official has happened yet. But I think this is just really nice series altogether, and like I said, now it is complete, so you can read it in its totality if you don't want to wait for the anime, or just like at the very least get to know the story before it gets adapted into an anime if they decide to do a season 2. But I hope they do, because I love to continue seeing this get animated, especially because, like I said, I'm going to end up picking this up like I did Tower of God. So because I feel like this could definitely be something they could finish in maybe a second season, or at the very least cover most of the remaining story in a second season. Because not every anime like covers the entire story. Some end up covering like 30 to 70 or 80% of it. It just depends on the anime itself. But regardless, those are just some of the things on my mind about it. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.